So this is the agenda for today. We've got a short intro from me. I want to say a few words about Simon. I'd like to open the floor up to others to do the same. We then have updates from the theme and program leads, a bit of a break in the middle. Then Jace is going to take us through a summary of the R&D for business strategy that he's been working on. We've got an ops update, and then we'll close just before 4:30. If there is any other business or items that people want to raise and get in, can you please send them to me in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on those, and I'll try and factor those into our meeting this afternoon. And if you do need to leave, Charmaine's mentioned as well, no problem. It's good to have you with us for as long as you can. Just before we get into the bulk, there is an AOB, and this I get every week. I get an update from the senior leadership group about matters arising from the university, and this one popped into my inbox, and you may already be on top of this. If you're in Simon's research group, I'm sure you probably are, but the cyber awareness training is now mandatory. It was something that was recommended. It's now a mandatory part of your training as a member of staff at Sheffield Hallam University. It should come down through your line managers, but if they're anything like me, they might not always capture everything. And so this is the information that comes related. If you go on to the My Hallam part in Blackboard, that's how you access this cyber awareness training. But I just wanted, given the kind of fact we're all working from home, given the work that's been going on around data and security and GDPR and all the rest of it with AWRC, I just felt it was appropriate to raise that today with everyone, to say, if you weren't aware of it, it's something you need to complete. If you're a line manager and you didn't know, just let your staff know, and I'll be doing that. It's quite a long course. I actually looked at it. I was going to try and fit it in today, but it's 80 minutes. So you'll need a couple of cups of coffee and to get you through it. But that's something that we all need to do. So on to, I guess, more sobering news. I hope that you will all be aware now that Simon Butler, the head of the Wellbeing Accelerator, sadly passed away earlier this month on Easter Sunday. And we don't know specifically how Simon died, but his family have told us that was related to his heart. And Simon leaves his partner Sarah, an extended family, his son Johnny, two younger brothers, as well as a stepson and daughter, Emily and Daniel. And there is an opportunity for colleagues and friends and those who knew Simon to share some of their stories and thoughts about Simon on a much loved web site that Kim Holland and the colleagues from the AWRC Accelerator have set up. This is the link. If you've not seen it, I really do encourage you to go on there, share some thoughts, memories, and the family have asked for donations to the British Heart Foundation in lieu of Simon's death being related to his heart. So far on there's over £2,200 of funding raised for the British Heart Foundation, and Simon's funeral will take place tomorrow at 1:30. The family have shared details of how we can join the webcast. In COVID, there's only a small number of people that can actually attend. Chris Lowe is personally attending the funeral on behalf of the AWRC and the Wellbeing Accelerator. So for those of you that are able to join Simon's funeral tomorrow, I'll share the details of this to the group after. The family have given us permission to do that, but it's at 1:30 tomorrow afternoon. So if you're able to join that, I know that will be appreciated. I'm just going to pause there and kind of see whether colleagues, I'll stop sharing for a second, whether colleagues want to add anything, add any stories, any thoughts about Simon at this stage. We don't have to, but it's just an opportunity to if anyone would like to. Okay. What I would ask, if colleagues do get a chance to contribute to that would be great. And Georgina and Kim are also attending the funeral tomorrow as well. And Kim, Georgina, Ryan, and Terry. I don't know if Terry's on the call, but I hope you guys are doing okay. This must be incredibly difficult for you all. And yeah, please send our best wishes if you speak to Sarah and the family tomorrow, for everyone here at AWRC. Okay, let me just go back to sharing my screen a second. Okay, so just a reminder, this is the agenda that we're going to walk through. So for the next period, I'm going to just hand over to the theme and program leads. Looks like there's 7 minutes each. So perhaps if there's a brief 5 minutes update and then a couple of minutes for questions, then that will be great. So Caroline Dalton, I think you're first up. So over to you for a brief update.
I've just got a couple of slides. So can I share my screen? Am I allowed to? Yeah. Come on. Okay. Come on, computer. There we go. So Liam says sorry, he can't. I don't think he's here. He's got a meeting with SDH. So this is the plan on a page that we did back in, was it November, around November, December? Yeah, something like that. So I thought it was probably the most useful thing was to just go through and score how we're doing based on this. So so we had our goals over here, and then activities, internal and external activities to achieve those goals. So we've recruited an ECR co-theme lead, which is Liv, so on that. We've done some work, which I'm going to give you a bit more detail on in the next slide, on identifying academics and early career researchers to lead sub-themes, although we haven't got specific leaders to the sub-themes, but we've identified people under our sub-themes as part of the working groups, which I'll tell you about a bit more in a minute. This is a kind of work in progress, a stakeholder engagement plan and matrix, but we have matrixed out people, external people particularly, that we think we need to involve in contact, and internal people as well, but that's the kind of ongoing process. We've started to contact, identify and consult with key external stakeholders, and I'll mention who we've talked to. This is an ongoing process, agreeing a research strategy, but I think we've focused on having these sub-themes and then trying to establish a momentum and the sustainability of the sub-themes so that they generate project ideas and develop grant proposals. That task seems to be over from the other side. It's the same task again. I don't know why it got in twice. And we've established some working groups I'll tell you about. So there's 2 things we haven't done. We haven't established a steering group because we've kind of gone for a collegiate approach rather than appointing heads of the working groups. So I think we need to, as they get established, we need to ask representatives to be on our steering group from each group, but we haven't quite got to that stage yet. And we haven't organised any sandpits yet. but I'll come on to that in a minute and what we're going to do about that. And we have supported quite a few of the accelerator projects. Okay, so under our sub-themes, we've got musculoskeletal working group. So we've had a meeting already and pulled together a group of academics from CHU, and also talked to PhysioWorks as an external partner. And so the next step is to get that working group back together. And the first time we met, we came up with 3 broad areas of research. So begin to pin that down a bit more and identify funding calls and start working on grant applications. Then we've, under the cardiovascular theme, the main person we've talked to so far is Simon Nicol, and he's got a particular project he wants to develop. We've also started talking to Ali, so I think we need to pull other CHU researchers into that, support Simon with his grant application, and then identify, kind of work out what other opportunities there are. But I know that just informally talking to Ali, he's got loads of ideas of what he wants to do as well. We've got our neuro group up and running, although I should just give credit to Anushka really, because she kind of just did it and we adopted it. This has got a very close collaboration obviously with Chris and Rachel's, because there's some overlap, so they're part of it as well. There's projects already in the pipeline. Again, we can't take credit for this. Anushka has been driving these as well. But part of the group are the people from psychology, so like Lynn Barker is involved, and I think that's going to be really productive. So our role as theme leads with this group is a bit more like just supportive, because there's a lot of momentum, a lot going on under the theme already. I think, and so we agreed at the last meeting of this subgroup that the next step was to help work out a structure, so we could structure research ideas, so that we could actually, because people had so many ideas, to try and pin down which are the ones we need to work on. Then under the cancer theme, we're going to establish a working group, but we kind of want to get the ICR stuff service pinned down first, so we know what we're inviting people into. There was the NIHR prehab bid that's just been submitted. We've got long COVID, so we've got 2 NIHR bids in development at the moment. They're going on the 12th of May. There's lots of projects going on that I think you know about already: the fatigue study, the app study, the virtual clinic. The app study, we're nearly ready to submit a preprint. We've got the NCSCM webinar about long COVID tomorrow that Anna Lowe's led. And then these are the other sub-themes that we sort of thought we talked about developing that we haven't really worked on yet. Metabolic conditions, multimorbidity and whole systems. And looking at Sally's email a couple of days ago, I think we need to work out where our bit fits in and with what Sally's doing and how that all fits together, which we haven't really done yet, and also with what Chris is doing. So this is the medium-term targets, and really the key steps that we're going to do are to work out, as I said, working out how to get these working groups to generate a sustainable pipeline of project ideas, rather than just have lots of meetings where everybody has good ideas and then you kind of go away and you don't do anything until 6 weeks later, and then you think, oh, I should have done something. Try and solve that problem so that we actually have a rolling program of grant bids put in. And then Liam and I had decided that we will do some events, but we want to do them in the building, and we want to really showcase what we've done so far with the sub themes, show people around the building, and then say, look, this is what we're up to, come and join us in what we're up to. So we'd probably do like a morning in one sub theme and then an afternoon in another, something like that, and invite internal and external people. And that's it, I think.
Great, thanks, Caroline.
Oops, sorry, hang on. I need
really
to
helpful.
stop
Lots of good progress. Are there any questions for Caroline? I can't see everyone on the screen at the second, so there we go. If there are, just shout up. Liam's just joining us as well.
Hi, Caroline. Quick question from me. There was something previously bounced around mental health. Is that?
Yes, sorry. Yes, we did. Yes, that's. So we haven't done anything. I should have that on my list. It's because we previously talked, didn't we, Dave, about that being an overarching thing. and it's indicative that I've not included it on the diagram, so I'm going to make sure that never ever happens again.
Note to everyone, please don't forget your
Yeah, it's because I think it should be involved. It should be involved in all the sub themes, and whether we need to have it as its own individual sub theme so it doesn't get lost. Maybe we do. Yeah, so I will add that immediately.
What else?
Liam, have I forgotten anything?
I've literally just arrived conveniently, so I don't actually know.
Well, you saw the slide.
What I heard sounded great. So
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay, well, we'll move on. So thanks, Caroline. Bang on time.
Yeah.
22 minutes past. Chris, Dason, over to you, and possibly Catherine as well. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. And I say I haven't got anything as organised as a presentation, but what I thought I would do is just talk to you about some highlights. And I've also asked Kath to mention a couple of things as well. So we'll do a bit of a double act. So I guess for me specifically, and also I guess the focus of the theme over the last few months has really been around getting some of the green social prescribing work off the ground that I mentioned previously. And actually, it's worth mentioning, picking up that point that Dave just made, that green social prescribing is actually green prescribing for mental health. So this is a specific kind of set of activities targeted at mental health, getting people active and engaged and physically active in the environment with a view to benefiting their mental health. So this, I think previously I've mentioned how we've been doing a lot of work locally with the integrated care system to support them with their test and learn program. And last week, we saw the launch of the what's called the Green Network, which is a multi-stakeholder forum for everybody that's interested in kind of learning and getting involved in green prescribing activities. And there's an open offer there for anyone connected to the AWRC who wants to be involved to kind of join the Green Network. So please kind of let me or Lucy know, because Lucy is closely involved in this as well. There's lots of opportunities as a result of our involvement in the network to kind of try and connect to research opportunities and things like that. So if anyone is interested, please do give me a shout, and I can link you up with the right people and have a conversation about how you might get involved. Since we last spoke, this has also moved on to be something that we're involved in nationally, because we're now involved in a consortium doing the national evaluation of the green prescribing program. That's working. It's led by University of Sheffield, but we're also working with Plymouth and Exeter. We've got quite a key role there, leading on some of the test and learn sites. It's a multi-government partnership involving Department of Health, NHS England, DEFRA, Sport England, Natural England. As you can imagine, that brings some really interesting political dynamics, and seeing them all in a room together arguing is quite interesting from an evaluation perspective as we're getting that project up and running, and how you have kind of really different views around kind of what the purpose of this is from the really clinical end that the Department of Health have, to DEFRA and Natural England, Sport England, to a much more, I guess, open and preventative in their thinking. So it's been a really interesting piece of work, and kind of positions us really nicely in a network now of academic institutions interested in green work. Other social prescribing news, I'm working on a large NIHR grant led by the University of Oxford to evaluate the national rollout of social prescribing link workers. And hopefully we're going to be able to engage at least one PERG member in the design of that, and hopefully possibly as a COI as well. Thanks to Claire for linking me up with them at pretty short notice. Also, just to flag up, one of the ambitions for the social prescribing work is to do a NIHR grant around social prescribing and physical activity specifically. And this is something that I've been speaking to Sport England and Parkrun about, and they're definitely interested. I've now been able to secure a bit of SHU funny money, so money that they find at the end of every year to support research activity. So they've got to get it spent to do a bit of a scoping review around the evidence base in support of that. But what I need is some, I guess, ideally some ECRs who might want to work on that with me. So if anyone knows of it, if anyone's interested in getting involved in that and has got some capacity on it over the next few months, please do give me a shout, and we can link up. And there'll be an opportunity to get in and shape the development of that grant bid from the ground up. The other thing I wanted to flag up was that it feels like there's a lot. We've got a bit of a gap at the moment around children and young people, but at the same time, it feels like there's lots of opportunities here, around mental health and obesity. And I think we can try. What I want to try and do over the next few months is build a bit of a momentum around this. So if anyone is interested in getting involved in work around prevention, children and young people, linked to different conditions, please do give me a shout. And I think we might try and pull together a bit of a working group over the next few months of people that are interested. I know I've spoken to some people already about this, and I think there's potential to link up. So give me a shout if you're interested in getting involved in that, and we'll see what we can do. I'm now going to hand over to Kath, who's just going to tell you about some work we've been doing in Rotherham.
Thanks, Chris. So yeah, we've got a very small bit of money from the public health team in Rotherham. They got about 20k, I think, last year to do a Moving in Nature project. So they focused on 3 parks across the borough and looking at why people don't use them. And they've employed 3 artists that are doing work with the communities around the area. So Chris and I have gone in and done a bit of consultation with stakeholders around those parks. So neighbourhoods, health, police, elected members, various different people have attended 3 different events. I think there's been a few reasons why it's been really good. It's the first time really Chris and I have worked on a project together. So that's been great. We're working out kind of different methodologies and different ways of consulting with these groups that we've been having and feeding back. In terms of Rotherham, it's feeding into a next stage bid from the Design Council where they can bid for, I think it's up to 300,000. So we're helping them to kind of create their theory of change in this piece of work. So we think that the stuff that we've been doing will be able to roll out for other areas. And I think the other thing is, obviously, Chris and I, many of you know, have already got strong links to Rotherham from a former life, if you like, but this is a really good way of kind of building up those relationships and collaborations with them in a research sense. And I think it fits really well into some of the other embedded research that we're doing across local authorities in Yorkshire and Humber. So it's been a really interesting piece of work. And then just one other thing that I'll mention is we're just about to go into the 3rd phase of the Easier to Be Active project, which was a piece of work that we're doing with Sport England. So we're doing another round of consultation, and that's about reducing or creating a frictionless experience for people with long-term conditions to be more active. So we're launching an online conversation that'll be open for 3 weeks from the 10th of May. So I'll circulate that round to everybody, but I'd really encourage, if you can get on board, go on, log in, put some points on there. It's essentially a discussion forum that you can go on, and then we're doing all the analysis and feeding back to Sport England about that. So the more people we can get on involved, if you like, to check and challenge what we've already heard and kind of help us to, it's about co-producing some outputs at the end for Sport England around this agenda. So please get involved with that as well. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Kath. Probably got time for one question, if there is any. In fact, please just shout up. Okay, I'm going to move us on then. So Lucy, yourself, I think Sally, around the Systems, Services and Strategy programme.
Yeah, so we've been really busy. We've been continuing to engage with a variety of different stakeholders, starting to build a lot more collaborations and partners, and really think about kind of where our research sits as well, I suppose. So we've been doing quite a bit of work, speaking with Rob and other partners to just look at kind of where we sit within the AWRC as well, and how that can kind of link in to support people either in industry or in research. And one of the things that we're doing is our launch event. So that's on the 14th of May, starting to really think about promoting ways that people can engage with research within the AWRC, or how we can help people with their research. So really starting to build up some more of those networks and start to communicate some of the work that we're doing and some of the work that we'd like to do. So one of the things that we were having discussions around was sort of the backdrop and where we are at the moment in terms of, I suppose, health and care systems, services and strategies within the UK, and looking at the whole systems thing, like Caroline mentioned. So that's definitely on our agenda to kind of touch base with the research team leads and make sure that we're building some of those kind of whole systems approaches into all the work that we're doing. And there's lots of policy drivers that we've started to think about. So things like zero carbon NHS and how we can maybe think about bringing that into the AWRC, looking at things like health impact assessments, equality and diversity, sort of the digital innovation and working with those as kind of really key contexts that we need to sit our research within. And thinking about how we can really start to drive the health inequality agenda and working to serve underserved communities. So there's lots of kind of, I suppose, big picture thinking that we've been doing over recent weeks, but that hasn't really detracted from the rest of the research that we've been carrying on with. So we've had various bids that have gone in. We've been working on our current kind of systematic reviews right through to larger bids, things like the Recover project, obviously, that Sally's involved in, and building those collaborations. But I think probably the biggest thing that's happened since the meeting is that we've actually managed to get our launch event pulled together and engage some really kind of good speakers with that as well, so that we can start to drive some of those engagement activities that we're really hoping to achieve with the launch event. So getting more people to know about us and what we do and how we work. So that's really the aim of that, I suppose. I don't think I've got much else to mention other than that. I know that was quite short and sweet, but I've not had a specific update from Sally about anything that she wanted to mention. But I think that's generally an overview of where we are at the moment.
Thanks, Lucy. And just to say, the kind of the program that you and Sally leading will sit across the entire AWRC portfolio. So this idea about connecting all the work that we do into the health and care system and responding to health and care challenges that are important both locally and nationally, I think it's important not just for the research themes, but is important for our R&D, it's important for our strategic collaborations, it's important for our health innovation work and training and education. That's why the program's going to work not just within the research pillar of the strategy, but across the entire portfolio.
Yeah, I think that was sort of the biggest thing that came out of our discussions, really, wasn't it? That we don't sort of sit neatly under the research pillar, and yeah, I think that kind of breadth of work has really started to help us to see how it will all fit together. So yeah, definitely.
A question from, so two things. Rachel's put the sign up for the launch event in the chat. Thanks, Rachel. And Ryan makes a really, really good point about the need that's been identified through the business accelerators around health economics. We know this is an area of challenge for us more broadly across the Health Research Institute. I just wondered whether there was any thoughts about the role of health economics and whether that's something we might need to connect with for SHAR, for example. There's been one good partner.
Yeah, we've generally used SHAR previously when we've been looking at things like health economics, but I do think it is something that's probably missing from the work that we do kind of collaboratively in the AWRC. It's not the sort of expertise that we reliably have access to all the time. So I think that's something that we do need to be considering, certainly in terms of the health impact strand. I think we've been thinking more about population-based outcomes rather than the health economics, but I totally recognise that that's an important part of the evaluation, and we certainly need to be embedding that into the work that we're doing. Yeah, it's a really good point. Thanks, Ryan.
Chris, Jason?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back on the health economics bit, and just for information, really. So SHU is leading the health economics bit of the green social prescribing evaluation. Interestingly, because SHAR didn't want to do it, because I think they're more of a purist, less applied approach than we did. It's being led by Ian Wilson in Crazer, he's an economist who can do health economics. So I guess it's worth thinking that the expertise does sit in SHU in different places, and perhaps we just need to maybe a bit of a mapping exercise around where the health economics expertise sits might be a valuable thing to do.
Yeah, that would sound really useful, definitely.
Good. And Tom in the chat mentioned Themis in Cirque. There's also Khalid and Anil Gumbar. I think Anil's now in Cirque as well. So there's a number of folk disparately across the organisation. There may be others in maths department, for example. Any other Claire Boot?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Lucy. That was really useful. I was just thinking with regards to, and I'm sure you and Sally have got it all in hand, but with regards to preparation for your launch event, with regards to the logistical side of the access to research at AWRC, obviously there's the skills and expertise, as you've been mentioning, but also from the logistical side with regards to the space and the equipment. If there's anything that we can contribute to support, then please get in touch and we can have a quick conversation maybe in advance of the launch.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Claire.
So I'm going to move us on. Thanks, Lucy. Rachel Young, over to you, please.
Hi, so I'm just talking about the neurology programme, and Chris isn't available today. What I'll do is just take us back to a slide we developed right at the start of the programme, just to update where we were up to on 4 of the key areas which covered this. So here we go. So we've got the first corner is about industrial collaboration. So that area is growing. So we have our relationship with Shapemaster continues to thrive. They like what we've done with the first 3 machines, and they're investing in, let me get this right, an innovation partnership with the Centre for Exercise and Sport Engineering. So that piece of work, I think, it's costed at around 30,000, and Ben and the team will be applying what we've done with the first 3 machines across 8 further machines over the summer, and they will be going out hopefully to market at the end of the year. So that's all going well. In terms of other technologies, we're working with Selfit, who came into the AWRC via the accelerator, and Nikki Snowden's going to be leading a feasibility project with that technology, which we're based at STEPS, which is something I'll come back to in a minute as well. And then Exercise Prescriber, they are a digital exercise prescription company, and they had a vision to create a neurological resource. So those exercises that we would more commonly prescribe in neurology. So a few weekends ago, we videoed and narrated 200 exercises with the team, and in return for that, we have access to their license. So hopefully, as a clinical service develops at the AWRC, we'll be able to use and evaluate that product as well, and build that relationship there. Okay, so moving on to intervention, design and testing. I think tomorrow's an exciting day for me, because finally people with stroke will be coming into the AWRC and trying out the prototype machines. So we've got 7 people recruited to the project. They'll be coming in for 10 visits. The operations team at the AWRC have been really helpful in terms of getting plans in place ready for that project and the data that it will collect. And for a lot of these people, it will be the first time they've really been out since March 2020, because they have shielded, they have been at home. So it feels like a really important opportunity, both from a data collection point of view, but also in terms of offering a safe venue where people can start to venture out post-vaccine. Moving around in terms of implementation, we've had a publication that's gone out in Physiotherapy Journal. It was a systematic review on venue-based exercise for people with stroke, and that's triggered interest from an exercise prescription group who we're just in a very, very early conversation with about potential collaboration or research going forwards there. But also working with Claire Boot and the team to start to think about the clinical service in more detail. I think really drilling into the governance arrangements surrounding that, and also talking with Sheffield Neurophysio, who are a local service provider, about the relationship which might support delivery of that clinical service as well. It potentially is a pathway of least resistance, I think, in terms of recruiting clinicians and getting that service off the ground. So I would hope probably by autumn that we're able to invite our first patients in for their clinical sessions at the AWRC. And then finally, moving round to NHS and third sector collaboration. So yesterday we had a really positive meeting with the teams from the Steps Rehabilitation Hospital, and Jason Brannan was there as well. So a lot of positivity about opportunities for future research, which might be contract research or funding bids, collaborations with other sort of hospitals across the UK, but also think opportunities for our students at SHU as well to get involved with dissertations and placements which might involve working as research assistants as well. So I think a lot of mutual things where we can really help each other along. So that was good. And then finally, we're working closely with Mexborough and Montague Rehab Hospital. So they've got Shapemaster equipment sited out there. They've trialled it, well, just got familiar with it really with people with stroke over the last few months. But we're working with Caroline as well to put in an AWRC bid on the 12th of May to look at assisted exercise for long COVID or post-COVID. So Bassett Low will lead that application. Obviously, we'll be a major collaborator, but Strathclyde and Manchester Met are also in the conversation as well. So expression of interest has gone in. It's just, hopefully we'll get to the finish line and click submit this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Lots of fantastic work going on there, particularly like the collaborations and with Shapemaster and Steps Rehab. I think that's really exciting, and all the best tomorrow with the patients in the AWRC.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Rachel? Just shout up if there are any. Oh, Lucy, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saw on your slide, Rachel, about some of the co-design stuff, and just to say really that if there's anything that Sally or I can do to help with some of that co-design, then you know where we are.
Yeah, thank you, Lucy. I think it's key, isn't it, to both of our programmes, and definitely something that I think is both co-designing services and technologies, and there's a lot to share there as well. I do just wonder, you know, the Long COVID project, the Sport England project, it probably sort of falls between our two programmes. Is it worth just spending 1 minute updating on that as well?
Yeah, that would be really helpful, actually. Thanks.
Okay,
Rachel.
yeah. So this is our final week of recruitment, and we have nearly hit targets. So our target was 12 participants, and our 11th has just come in today. There's really good engagement from the participants, so people are coming in for 3 virtual sessions with the clinical teams. So I think we've had 3 or 4 people complete now and completed all their data and surveys as well. So that's positive. I think the data is going to be very rich. We've not had time to analyse it in any detail yet, but certainly looking at the surface of what's coming in and what's being shared, I think will absolutely generate new knowledge and a really new insight into the experiences of living with long COVID in an underserved community. And we were interviewed by Calendar TV yesterday. So they were at the AWRC. One of our participants spoke really well for a good few minutes. Wakas from Darnell Wellbeing was interviewed, and I said a few words as well. So I think that will be broadcast over the weekend.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rachel. Any additions to that? Any questions, Caroline? I'm anticipating a question.
Rachel, I just wondered what the split was between people who were hospitalised and non-hospitalised in your group. You know?
So actually, they've all been non-hospitalised.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah, but described being really unwell, and one person certainly went to an out-of-hours service. So people,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
And how long are you following them up? How long are you following them up after they've been with you?
So typically session 1 and session 2 are about 1 to 2 weeks apart, and then their final session is usually 2 weeks on from that. So typically we're in contact with them for a month over those 3 sessions. And actually we're finding it quite hard to let go, but we have to.
That's what I was thinking, because that's what I found with the app study. Like I contacted them again. put in an ethics amendment to contact them again 4 months later. And they were all like straight on it. Like I sent out an email and within an hour they were all like there again. Yeah. So
you do really wonder what's going to happen beyond your contact. So we've got Daniel Wellbeing to take forwards that support, which is good to know. But our direct contact does finish after session 3. Yeah. Thanks,
Rachel. I'm going to move us on. Jims, I'm going to come to you for the last update from the themes. Over to you, Jims.
Oh, thank you very much. First, apologies for coming in late because I was busy with another workshop, and our team lead is also not here. He's also busy with interview. So I'll just give a brief overview of what is going on. It might not be as interesting, but there is one very interesting part from Alessandro, because just been awarded an AWRC grant with a wider UK network of researchers called Emergence. It's about tackling frailty and facilitating the emergence of healthcare robots from labs into service. And it involves with 5 core partners, with SHU and UWE, Hertward, the University of Sheffield, and Hertfordshire. And the Emergence Network aims to create the sustainable ecosystem of researchers, businesses, and end users, health and social care commissioners and practitioners, policymakers, regulatory bodies, in order to build the knowledge and capacity needed to enable healthcare robots to support people living with frailty in the community. And this project is 300K for the pilot project. And the interesting part is SHU under Alessandro will be leading on co-creation and the pilot projects. And it starts in September. So more information will follow from Alessandro as the project starts. And he informed us that if anybody wants to, participate and take part, to keep in touch with him. And unfortunately, there was another interesting project which we put in for a multi-modal interactive robotic system, but it just got rejected. But another interesting part, the positive side, will be just a few days back. We recruited 2 PhD students, one government sponsored, and another one is a self-sponsor, who will be working directly on the ideas of IoT security kind of things that I'm working on a blockchain technology. They will be full-time, and one have actually joined, and one will be joining next month in the 1st of May. And Alessandro and I, interestingly, we are also planning on one bigger workshop with Yorkshire and Humber, HSN, on the theme of cybersecurity and AI to be incorporated in NHS digital and NHS or healthcare system for health and well-being. And to make that successful, there was a SIP funding call from the department. So I have put in an application with Alessandro together. So hopefully that will go through, and we'll have this workshop. We have not decided the date and time, but it will be this year. And then to make the work that we do with AWRC progress further, this collaborative Electrop University Australia, the scholarship funding that they put up recently. So we are both of us with Alessandro, we are writing a project proposal for security and privacy for a multimodal interactive robotic social system. I think in a brief, those are the kind of things that is happening within our team. Thank you for your time.
Great. Cheers, James. I'm really intrigued about the kind of translation of robots into the community. I think that could be a fantastic opportunity for lots of researchers. Are there any questions or points of clarification for James?
Yes,
Caroline.
So, James, that's amazing. The grant, the Emergence grant, that's fantastic. I think our MSK group, we've talked a lot about frailty. We have, haven't we, Dave? And we'd be really interested in seeing if we can contribute or be involved in that.
Yeah, that would be good. I'll convey to Alessandro shortly. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for folk? If not, we are bang on time. Chair's doing a brilliant job here. This is really good. Thanks everyone for your updates. Keep me to time. We've now got a short movement break. Trip to the loo, fill up your mugs, and we will be back at 5:02 for Jason's update on the R&D for business strategy. So I'll see you at 5:02. Cheers, everyone. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, Jason, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to you for your update on R&D for Business pillar. Cheers.
Great, thanks, Rob. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all again. A quick one before I start, just to let you know, the cyber awareness training is very good and a wonderful way to spend your lunchtime, just in case you were wondering. Okay, so today I want to sort of take you through the R&D for Business pillar strategy, but I want to do that by explaining its programs to you, because that'll be a much better way to elucidate what we're actually trying to achieve rather than just bombarding you with a strategic document. What I'm going to do post-meeting is send everybody on the call, or make sure everybody on the call has got access to the actual strategy document itself, and also a video I did previously for the AWRC board, which goes into a lot more detail, because I've only got 15 minutes today and there's a lot more stuff to cover than that. And if you want to have a look at those and you can't get to sleep at night, I'm sure it'll send you right off. So I'll make sure you get a chance to access those things. Let me share my screen one moment so you can actually have a look at the sort of things that we're talking about here. Okay, one moment. Let's play the slideshow. Okay, here we are. Let's go back a touch. Okay, so very quickly, this is the strategy for the R&D for Business pillar, encompassing the great work that's already taken place with the Wellbeing Accelerator. A very quick point to say on that. I just want to really quickly point out the work that Simon and the team had done, but particularly highlight Simon in this, obviously because of his untimely passing. Not only was the work of an exceptional standard, it was also done in really difficult circumstances. And I think that work that Simon created alongside the team is something we can use as a basis to continue on across the R&D for Business pillar, which, as it says here, is an ambitious, balanced portfolio of borderless research and innovation, but really has strong civic engagement at its heart. And that's a really key thing for me. We've spent a lot of time, or I spent a lot of time speaking to researchers, lots of people on this call, but also speaking to business about what they were looking for, about how to connect them together. And I took really broad consultation across SHU. So if anybody in the call were people that I actually spoke to about this program, I just want to say thank you, because it was hugely helpful for somebody who's reasonably new to the university last December. Having that kind of input and that kind of insight has been invaluable. And I can assure you, I took on board the things that you said and tried to incorporate them into the program. As I said, you'll get the paper and the video post meeting as well. But I tried to make sure that the whole thing was needs driven. Not just needs from researchers, but also needs from wider SHU, the civic need, the need that we have as individuals to work on these kinds of programs. The need for business as well was really key for me. But the two things that it really comes down to is I was looking to understand what business was looking for and deliver that to them through our research. But then I was also looking to make sure I understood what researchers were looking for across all types of research and make sure we had programs that could deliver that. So I'll take you through some of the programs now to wake this up and elucidate a little bit for you. Program one is called Innovation for Life. There's a rogue S in there, by the way. It's Innovation for Life. And really that's about how we work with business, how we use our researchers alongside business to sort of create things that change people's lives. I'm unabashed in saying that I'll drive for the pursuit of our vision of AWRC, and I'll keep doing that because I think it's the key thing for us. If we can do that and be successful with it, we've got the potential to change people's lives. We've got the potential to change society. So I don't want to dilute that. I want to make sure we drive towards that mission and vision. The first part of the Innovation for Life area or program is called AWRC Business R&D Solutions. This is an holistic program where we work with businesses like the Canons of this world, for example, and rather than work with them transactionally and work on a particular project or a research area, we get to know the businesses better and we understand from the outset what their 5 to 10 year roadmaps are. And by doing that, we can then work with them and create these longer term equitable business relationships where we can connect into the waypoints along that roadmap and work with them. And a really lovely case in point is if we look at Canon as an example, we got to know them quite well. I spent a good bit of time with Mark Hitchman, who's the MD for Canon Europe. And we looked at the work we were already doing. We looked at what they were trying to achieve, and it became pretty obvious pretty quickly that as an international organization, Canon were looking to get involved in things like prehabilitation, artificial intelligence, obviously within scanning in terms of what they did. And they saw something like 60 to 90% of their business in healthcare in the future. So for us, obviously, that was a big deal for AWRC, and also the relationships we already had, we could connect in more effectively. And that also led to some wider conversations with work that some of our researchers were doing to get input back from Canon Japan, which is obviously headquarters. And really what came back writ large from those guys was that prehabilitation and artificial intelligence in scanning was a really big driver for them. So there's a really clear fit, but we could understand that and work with them on that because we understand what they were trying to do in terms of longer term roadmaps. And we've done similar bits of work with B. Braun, with Westfield Health, and we'll continue to do that. But that's really big set piece stuff, usually looking more at medium to global sized businesses. And in terms of how we do that and how it works, we can fund that through grant funding. We can fund it through transactional funding, for example. It can be co-funded with the businesses themselves. The businesses themselves can just pay for it. So there are lots of ways we can generate income to pay for the research that we have here within AWRC. The next area is called AWRC Product Solutions. And this is really about breathing new life into existing products and services. And by that, I mean, I'll give a couple of quick examples. If I'm an organization that's developed a new technology or product, and I want to get that to market, I may hit a point in the life cycle of that business or that product, should I say, where I just can't get over that development roadmap. So can we, as Sheffield Hallam, can we as AWRC and our college and all our co-locators work with them to provide technology, expertise, connectivity, relationships, et cetera, to get past that bump in the road and get the product nearer to market or to market. But that's for an established business. But also you might have an established business that's got a product at market already, but it's hit the end of its life. So we're at end of life. And often those organizations will reinvigorate those products to get them back to market. And why? Because their brands are already strong and they want to continue those brands. So for us, what we can do is we can help ensure that by using new research or state-of-the-art research or world-leading research, we can help them breathe life back into that product by reinvigorating what it does. It might be about audience, it might be about testing, it might be about new development technology, but we can do that work for them. And then the tertiary part of the program, which is the main substantive part of the R&D for Business Pillar program strategy, is the accelerator. Now, you'll all know about the accelerator and the amazing work it's done. It's been great. We're going to slightly change the way we do it. So before, the accelerator was an all-encompassing piece of work. Now it's part of this wider solution. And this is something that constantly came back to me in conversations I had with people, that we were looking for a broader balanced portfolio. So the accelerator, starting from the end of April next year, we'll have an interim accelerator now, and then the main accelerator and business as usual will go from April next year. And that will really be looking at sort of themed acceleration calls per year, based upon what we as AWRC and the wider academic community across Sheffield Hallam are looking to do in terms of research. Where are our research theme areas? Now, obviously, if we look at some of the emerging research and the emerging things that's happening with AWRC, things like prehabilitation are becoming a really big key area for us, using AI and scanning, those sorts of things, and lots of other areas. Rachel mentioned before the meeting I was in yesterday with Steps Rehab and the guys over there. So we'll have very clear areas we want to focus on. And I'd like to see the accelerator reflect those calls, reflect that research area. So we're working together across AWRC to achieve our outcomes, not in isolation. And that's really key. It'll be a 12-month program in terms of the acceleration. So we'll have 6 months looking at around about 10 companies that we'll bring in, and we'll develop them across their technology readiness levels. And then after 6 months, we'll look to bring in about 3 or 4 of those organizations and develop them further to get them nearer to market. The idea being that we get them as close to market as possible as we can. If we get them near market, then they can then transition into other parts of the program, product solutions or R&D for business solutions. So it should work together holistically. But I must stress on this very quickly, that this is looking to work across AWRC, college, RI, university, not just in isolation. Next up, a couple of things to look at. Program area 2 is called Business Loves Innovation. In essence, this is a program that's about getting business interested, more interested in working with universities. And it's getting around those sort of traditional beliefs that some businesses have, that see academia as a need to have, a nice to have, not a need to have. And that's driven really by, I think, some misconceptions. Having been on the inside of university now and having worked with universities, it's about this idea that businesses see universities as difficult to work with, difficult to enter. Once you're on the inside, you can be moved around. The drive is for research, not to really help business, and can be quite expensive, and the longevity is too long for the way businesses work. I disagree with that fundamentally. I think if we do our job correctly, we can be very active for business, and the accelerator is showing how that works. So we want to create an AWRC borderless research seminar program. The idea here is that we find the areas that we're researching around or coalescing around as an organization in AWRC, and we match that to businesses on the outside of the organization, and we bring them together within a seminar program. The idea is really simple. The idea is really, really clearly to bring them together, matching research to what those organizations are doing. So we'll create collisions, so they'll want to work with us. They'll see a really clear example of why they should be with us. And just let me take one quick step back, and I'll make sure I finish on time, promise. Okay, one quick step back. When we start putting together from the end of June this year, the operational implementation plan for this program, we will consult far and wide all over again. We'll look at programs that already exist. We'll make sure we don't cross over those programs. We'll make sure we work with them where possible. And if there's a program that does exactly what we're doing here, we'll work with that program rather than reinvent it. And I think that's really important. This isn't about replication or isolation. It's working with people, and that's central to what I've done in the strategy. And I think you'll see that. Okay, the bit that really sort of strikes a chord with me is program area 3, and that's transforming communities. This is about making sure that we engage with underserved communities really well. Caroline, it was really interesting listening to your presentation earlier on talk about these areas, because they're really personally important to me as an individual as well. And I know they're really important to AWRC. I was in a meeting the other day talking about the Levelling Up Fund, and somebody made a point that actually organisations like AWRC and things like the Olympic Legacy Park just see people come in from South West Sheffield, earn a high salary and go back home again. And I said, well, maybe that is the case. Maybe those things do happen, but I can assure you that AWRC is working with the community from the ground up, and we feed back into the community. And I think that's so important, because that perception externally is that that doesn't take place, and it absolutely does. So these two programs, there's an AWRC outreach program, creating civic pride, engagement and ownership in disadvantaged or underserved communities. Thanks, Dave Hembrough, by the way, for giving me the term underserved communities. I'll make sure I keep on using that. Thank you. But it's about making sure that people within those communities like Attercliffe, Darnall, Shire Green, understand that AWRC is a building for them, it's an organisation for them, and that the university is at the heart of their community, and they should feel like it belongs to them. That's critical for me. So when you're the sort of kid that I was in Bradford when I was, a young man with pretty low aspirations, really academically and also in terms of my life in general, that they see there is a route through, there is a connectivity point. And I've chatted with Sally and a few other people actually about the PERG program that is already taking place, which I really, really, really rate. And for me, something like a youth PERG program, working with either the UTC or the Oasis Academy, where we can actually have youngsters working on, child health technology type product, should I say, and feeding into that is perfect. Because if they do that as exemplars, they'll go back into their schools, they'll go back into their teachers, they'll present it, in assemblies and things like that. And the message will spread that this place is here and the opportunity is here to engage with it. And I think that's absolutely key. The next part is AWRC Public Seminar Series. We already do some of this stuff, but I want to make sure we contextualize what we do to business. Obviously, it's the R&D for Business pillar. And the reason I think that's important is if we're talking to school children or even college level students, and we're just talking about sort of general research that's not focused or contextualized, it's pretty dry. We might be interested because it's what we do, but it's pretty dry to other folk. But if we can say to a young man or a young woman based at the Oasis Academy around the corner, okay, the sort of stuff that we work on might help prevent an injury in a Sheffield United footballer. It might help us develop a standard model of how balls fly for FIFA, for example. It may create a product or service that helps your grandfather or grandmother walk again or become active again. It's that contextualization for me that's the real key with this. Okay, I'm not going to go any further. That gives you an overview of the programs we're putting together. I will send across the strategy so you can read in detail. It's quite long, about 18 pages, but bear with it. I'll send across a much longer video that goes into far more detail than this, of course, with some of the thinking behind these programs. Just to give you some timeframes, by the way, so you know what's happening with it. We have high funding in place already. So we have high funding applied for. We'll find about that quite shortly if we're going to get that funding for the current accelerator team so we can produce this program. The interim accelerator has already been worked on. We'll start in earnest in around about June, July time. We are obviously then looking to use that time frame between July and April next year to develop the operational implementation model for these programs, and then also connecting into other ones. And then I see business as usual starting in the R&D for Business pillar from April 2022. Okay, thanks for your time. I don't know if we've got time for questions, but if we have, I'm more than happy to field any of them. Thanks.
Cheers, Jace. Thanks.
Just stop that share, guys.
Yeah. Are there any quick questions for Jace? I'm just looking around the screen.
I had a good chat with Dave, by the way, on the Mayoral Combined Authority and the Youth Combined Authority. That was Dave Hembrough, by the way. Thanks for that, Steve. So I've definitely taken that into consideration. Obviously, everything at the minute's in discussion and development in terms of what we do. But I've got to say, in my mind, the idea of having, you know, somebody from, or some children from the OTC, from the OTC Academy around the corner is just so powerful in terms of what we're doing. So anyway, all for discussion. I'll mute myself now.
Thanks, Jace. Okay, so we'll move on to the final agenda item. Just a reminder, if you have any other business and you would like to let me know what that is, please put it in the chat and I'll make sure it's not lost. But Holly, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Rob. So I'm just going to try and present this. Just bear with me 1 second. So can you all see that?
No, I can't see
not
that.
at the minute, not at the minute, Holly.
Right, no problem at all. This is where PowerPoint and Zoom don't mix. There we are. So you should all be able to see that now.
Yeah,
so first on the agenda for the operations update today is around access requests. So the guidance, general guidance from the university is still to work at home if you can. So if you've got the means and the facilities to work at home, then you should be. That being said, if you need to come into the building for whatever reason, whether it's that you've not got a suitable space at home, whether you need to use the research equipment, or you've got some, a difficult conversation that needs to be had one-on-one that would benefit by face-to-face, then that is authorised as part of the university policies. So access to the building can be granted, and I just wanted to make sure that that is a clear message to everybody. We are still working under the guidance of business critical research only. So if a piece of research needs to be conducted face to face, it needs to be conducted in the building, you need particular equipment, and it can't be delayed without significant consequence, then that is what is classed as business critical. And it is still your head of research who would make that decision for you and sort of authorize that. But just a simple email is enough to say, yes, my research is classed as business critical. That's just part of the process we need to go through. So we are still taking, so like I said, small on-site meetings can take place if there's a business need for that. If that's, can't be done on Zoom for whatever reason, then that's absolutely fine. We just need to make sure that we're adhering to social distancing. And as I said, using desk space is also possible if you've not got a suitable space to work at home, or if you've got, a piece of work where you're working in a lab in the morning, and then actually you've got an important meeting you need to attend virtually in the afternoon, but you haven't got time to get back to your home. Then if you need space in the building to work in the afternoon, that's absolutely fine as well. So just sort of, sharing that message. We do still need an access request for everybody entering the building. So whether that's coming in to use some space for research, whether that's coming in to use a desk, whether that's coming in for a face-to-face meeting, we do need to keep you going through that access request process. And that's access via the form on SharePoint. So if you have any problems with that, then just let me know. And just to reiterate as well, sort of staff don't need to come into the building if they don't feel comfortable or they're unable to do so. Obviously, we've got, varying staff who might be shielding or find it difficult, or just, are still quite nervous about coming into the building at this time. So if you are coming into the building to have a face-to-face meeting, it's really important to try and make sure that there's a virtual option as well. So that's why we've got, we can book the Don Valley meeting room, you can book the boardroom, there's conference facilities in there. So there's always the option for somebody to join virtually if they're unable to make it physically into the building. And then, so moving on from access requests, it's just a little bit of an update on car parking. There is a bit of an increased activity around the building. For those of you who have been there, and that's great to see the buzz and more activity happening. That's the same for the local businesses around the AWRC as well. A lot of people are getting back to work. I know the library over the road are preparing to serve their coffees again, which I'm sure will go down with a lot of people. So there is increased activity across the whole site. The car park directly outside the AWRC is a shared car park. We have a total allocation of 30 spaces. The car park at the top of the Olympic Legacy Park off Worksop Road, that is a public car park for anybody to use. So we don't have any spaces allocated there. But if you are able to park in that top car park, that'd be great. And as Claire has very kindly calculated for us, you'd actually get an extra 1,000 steps in if you parked up there and walked down to the building. If you add in the 4 flights of stairs as well, that increases even higher.
It says 100,000 there, Holly. I had a bit of a panic then.
I may be taking small steps when I calculated it yesterday, but it's around that.
So we have recently purchased some signs to mark out some of the spaces, particularly since the NHS clinics have come on. We've been able to mark some of those spaces and reserve some spaces relatively close to the building for patients. We are trying to keep those for patients and research participants. So as Rachel mentioned earlier, she's got some participants coming in tomorrow with, who would benefit from being close to the building. So we're trying to keep those spaces available for them, which is why we're encouraging staff to park in the top car park if they are able to. If for whatever reason you need to be a little bit closer, then obviously by all means there are spaces that will have AWRC staff on them, and you're welcome to use them if you need to. The car parking is an ongoing issue that we're aware of, and I'm working quite closely with the car parking contractors and Sheffield City Council and the OLP to work out how that's going to be managed in the future. There's been a little bit of a transition period while Sheffield City Council got the contractors who are managing the Olympic Legacy Park as a whole. So that includes things like litter pickering and maintaining the ground. So you should have seen an improvement in litter and graffiti being removed recently. But one of those conversations that I'm having with them is around car parking. So it is something that we're working on. And as soon as I've got any updates, any changes about how that's managed, I'll keep you updated. So just handing over to Claire now for her updates.
Hey everybody, so yeah, just a bit of an update on the clinical services. So we've got some various services in now. So we've got Sheffield Children's Hospital, they've got 2 services in. They've got physiotherapy and they've also got physical activity therapists, who started this week. So that's just 1 day a week. Physio Works are also on board. So the main physio service and the Physio Works are settling in really well. We've had really good feedback and positive feedback, and we've seen some patients coming through the door today who now they're on the 2nd visit, and they seem to be really enjoying coming along to building. So these services are all just being signed up for 6 months initially, and we'll review those at an appropriate date. So they're being used as a pilot for them to make sure that it actually works for them and their patients, but also as a pilot for ourselves, so that we can test our processes and our procedures and make sure that everything's all working right. So they're currently sort of in this first 3-month period to sort of embed their services, and then we're going to start to look at how we can transition into research. I'm going to do Chris Whitty and say, Holly, can I have next slide, please? Thank you. So in the pipeline, we've got another potential Sheffield Children's Hospital that's moving towards coming on board at the end of May. It's actually quite closely linked to the activity therapist post. It's a preoperative clinic. They're just going to come in on board half a day a week, but they might be making referrals through to that other clinic. We've got some space booked out for the Leading Through Health and Wellbeing programme that's being delivered, that has health checks pre and post course. Shoe Wellness are running some of their clinics 1 day a month here. So if anybody's been thinking about getting their shoe wellness check done, AWRC will be an option to book into for that. Yorkshire Cancer Research, we've got that modelled in, but also there's details are to be confirmed around that as we move forward. And then, as been mentioned earlier on the call, with these discussions going on with neurological programme, and so we're looking at what might be coming on there. There's potential usage with Charmaine trials as well. So if anybody has got any projects that are in the pipeline and they think they might be needing some use of some clinical space for patients or participants, if you want to just drop the AWRC operations inbox a note, and just we'll try and gather some details from you there, so we can just pop you onto that pipeline, because space is limited. We're at about 45% capacity, I think, at the moment, so there is still space there, but we are getting other requests coming through. We are going to be looking at the future to how we sort of manage those requests, so we'll be including various people in those decisions and how we assess those coming forward. Collaboration, that's a key part really of what we're wanting to do, and there's already requests that have been coming through, quite a lot of those coming through to Ian, and so we're sort of working and managing those and seeing how we can sort of help and facilitate that. And that's it really from me. Thank you.
Can I just add there, just based on what Claire's just said around the pipeline, Holly mentioned the access requests, and I think there's been some queries as to access requests are almost when you know firmly what requirements you've got and when you want to be on site. And this pipeline, there's that little bit of gap in between as to, you know, a little bit, and we'd like to work with you when you know a little bit of the requirements, so we can continue to work with you once those requirements develop, so we can kind of put like we have with Yorkshire Cancer Research, we've kind of indicated that potentially there'll be some requirements to use some consultation rooms from September onwards, which is why we've put the option there to get in touch with AWRC operations, so we can start those conversations really early on to make sure space and equipment utilisation, we're looking at those, and it's not basically allocated out somewhere else once you need it for your research projects.
Great, thanks. So we, I think that's the end of the ops update, Holly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's everything from me. I've noticed Steve's put a question in about active travel advice. Yeah, and that was supposed to be as part of my slide, actually. If you can travel actively to the AWRC, do, that's great. But if you need to come by car, then, you know, that's the situation with the car parking.
And just to add to that, there is on the AWRC SharePoint site information about how you can travel to and from the site actively. And Sally Fowler-Davies, in fact, has done some training with Pedal Ready if you are traveling in between the campuses as to what the easiest routes are, and I think that's also on the SharePoint site. So we're trying, Steve. We are really we are trying.
So yeah, a quick one. As chair of the Active Travel Advisory Board, I had to get that one in.
Yeah.
So, but there will be more information coming. So Sheffield is looking at making some better cycling routes into and out of town that actually go right past the AWRC and straight into Darnall. So it's out for consultation at the moment. So fingers crossed we'll have that. And I'll try and get them to do a cycle path right to the cycle showers, you know, straight in as well.
That'd be good, Steve. Jen says you can get 10,000 steps if you walk from the city centre, and Ryan suggests, what about a swim down the canal? So I'll leave it to individual preference. Yeah, or a canoe down the canal.
You're allowed to canoe, yeah. I'm gonna say, or paddleboard.
Yeah. In the actual Don Valley Master Plan, they have got river boats, like canal boats, as transport going down there. So if when that happens, I'll eat me out. But anyway,
I've been on a paddleboard on there, but I saw some very how would you put it? Well, I just saw a big dead carp and a lot of litter and a lot of things that I shouldn't mention.
No.
We could have a clean up, an AWRC clean up of the canal.
God, it needs it. This poor woman fell in. I was mortified for her.
Oh dear, yeah, nasty. Business. Steve, you gonna add one?
Oh, just a quick one from Claire and her slides, because we've got a meeting. We've got a university meeting to discuss the Sheffield Children's Hospital. So perhaps you could just send me the slides with those numbers on. That'd be really helpful. Thank you.
Nice one, Steve. I will be making a similar request. That's come to me as well. If there's no other business from folk, I'll just finish by saying I'll send immediately after this meeting the details to Simon's funeral tomorrow afternoon. Sincerely hope that goes as well as these things can. Kim, Georgina, and those that will be attending. So our thoughts will be with Simon tomorrow. Thanks everyone for your input and contributions today, and we'll catch up with you in due course. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.